We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show. I am your Scholars of Wrestling world champion and your man behind the microphone. I am Scholar Jeff. Joining us this week, the OG undisputed scholar himself. He is Scholar Tarek. Scholar Tarek, how's life treating you, sir?
Life is treating me well. I can now watch WWE Raw and AEW Dynamite while I'm out working. I love streaming services.
Yes, sir. The dawn of the streaming era is upon us, and we're going to break all down the genesis of the streaming era. But first off, we got to introduce the rest of our crew this week. Next up, we have another undisputed scholar in his own right. He is Scholar Brian. Scholar Brian, how are you treating yourselves today, sir?
I am enjoying myself at the start of the new year, sitting on top of the mountain as Scholar of the Year, not involved in any of the storylines that we've got cooking up on the Scholars of Wrestling show. Just hanging out, watching Raw and Dynamite on streaming services, not having a care in the world because I don't have that over my shoulder, even though I am the Scholar of the Year. So I'm having a lot of fun not dealing with the fact that my tag team partner is going to be turning on me within the next few weeks.
Now, your tag
Wait,
team
what?
partner will be he will be by your side. He is a loyal friend. He is your friend, and we all know it. And last but not least, that brings us to our final scholar joining us this week, your friend and my friend. There is no other friends but Scholar Pete. Scholar Pete, how is my friend doing tonight?
My good, my tag team partner. I'm doing fantastic, as you could see, celebrating with us like the good old days of Dave Batista and Rey Mysterio. Just those good times, good times. But let's be real.
Truer friends there have never been and never shall be, except for me and thee.
Let me tell you, you're giving me a title shot. What a way to kick off the year. I mean, whose mistake? We're not pointing any fingers, but I mean, whose mistake?
No, no,
But I
come
mean,
on.
let's talk about why we're real here. It is Raw on Netflix. It is to the streaming era. You have Dynamite you can watch on Max. And what a time it is to be a wrestling fan right now. And we'll be bringing down, talking about these great shows that we just saw. So I can't wait to get in with you, gentlemen, and have all the discussions now that I can actually win Scholar of the Year because I'll be here for a full year and not be cheated out of not being a scholar because I only came on for half a year to take the scholar of the year. Take
Well, let's be serious now with the way that your results were looking at the end of the year. Let's not say that you had a shot last year, okay? They weren't looking pretty hot. That's all I'm saying.
new year, and you're gonna find it at the Royal Rumble when I take back my Scholars of Wrestling Championship. Back to you, tag team partner.
Thank you, my tag team partner. And we're going to break, like my illustrious tag team partner just said, we are going to break all things down in the genesis of the streaming era. But first, we need to kick things off the right way, as we always do on the Scholars of Wrestling show, with a little something we like to call backstage news.
Indeed, we go once again behind that curtain. Peek in there, see what's going on. Something going on there? No, no. Well, in that case, let's just burst right in that sheet and check in on some
Backstage news.
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 News. Black leaving
No.
man.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. And in one little bittersweet, potentially bit of backstage news this week, it was just announced that, according to backstage sources, AEW's Malachi Black is looking to depart the company when his current contract is up. Uh, sources say that he will become a free agent in either February or March. Question is, where's he going to go? Is he going to be returning to WWE, or could he potentially be going somewhere else? What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Look, this isn't like a new thing. We've known this has been coming for about 2 years now. This has been loading up. It took about 3 months for news to come out that he was unhappy with his role in AEW, which at the time was beating the piss out of Cody Rhodes every week. So he was already unhappy at that point. So it was only a matter of time before this would, and it got to the point where you would hear the news that Malachi Black was unhappy, and it just became like okay, he's been unhappy for a year and a half now. I've ceased to care. He's like, it's hard to care about the House of Black when you know that somebody in that group doesn't care.
Yeah,
we thought that Buddy Murphy was a part of that, but then he resigned and he's having baller matches with Will Ospreay on regular TV. So it's like, okay, so it couldn't have been that serious at the time. But Malachi Black has always been a problem behind the scenes in AEW. It's for the best that they just don't re-sign him, and he's going to go back to WWE where his wife is. It's not that hard to pick that out. So, and Triple H was the one who booked him best. So it's probably for the best that he goes back to being Aleister Black. That's
true
my
enough.
thought.
True enough. Personally, it's not unheard of for him to go back to WWE. But then again, that one question does seem to beget another. First of all, what will they end up doing with the rest of the members of the House of Black? Are they going to be
They already
renamed or
set that up.
repackaged?
They already set that up with Will Ospreay saying you don't need Aleister Black. Maybe they're setting up a new United Empire. You put in Brody King and Buddy Murphy, or what's his name? Is it Buddy Murphy?
Yeah, it's Buddy Murphy.
Buddy Murphy. Yeah, and put them together with Will Ospreay. They already started. They started setting that up by Will Ospreay being the one saying, "You don't need Malachi Black." And
True
whatever
enough.
you decide, I've got your back. That's basically what he said. So it's one of those, and then Buddy Murphy after the show did a promo that was like, "I just want you to know I heard you."
Then again, I'm not entirely convinced that all of them can or should go back to reform the United Empire. Buddy Murphy, maybe, but Brody King and Julia Hart are just their characterization just doesn't fit nearly as well.
Well, I feel like Julia Hart at this point can branch off on her own. I feel like she can be that character on her own. She can take the skills and the mindset that Malachi Black put into her and take it out on her own, and not be a part of a group anymore. I just find it's just the lead up. It's like Will Ospreay specifically said, you and Brody King. So whatever happens, it's going to be Buddy Murphy and Brody King. They're going to be a tag team. It's just a question of whether they're going to do that on their own and run through the tag team ranks, or or if that was or if that was the start of something with Will Ospreay.
Yeah, this seems to be generating a lot more questions than I really expected tonight. Tarek, do you have any thoughts, opinions? Where is everyone going to go?
My feelings on the whole matter kind of reflect on what Brian said. I think he's Malachi Black is WWE bound. Uh, it's very hard to like really judge what he's feeling, knowing his history with like answering to these rumors of like his stories. Like, oh, I'm planning on leaving. He's like, no, I'm not. Who knows what he'll even say about what's happening right now? And you have the people like Sean Ross Sapp trying to like circle around. This may be the case because who knows what he'll say if he actually makes a statement. But in my personal opinion, I think he's WWE bound. He's just waiting for his contract to run out and be a free agent. As for Buddy Matthews and Brody King, with what they hinted at, I see him teaming up with Will Ospreay, at least Buddy Matthews, at least. Um, the only other thing I could think of for Brody King is just basically being an ally for Darby Allin for when he comes back to stand up to like John Moxley.
Hmm, that could be potentially interesting.
Well, I mean,
Enemies to friends.
they did kind of set that up with the whole Brody King, Darby Allin, and Claudio deal that they
Yeah,
were running for those couple weeks. So he could become a part of that.
it's very
Hmm,
possible.
very interesting. Eh, I wasn't going into this with too many expectations, but now with this conversation, it sounds like we've got a lot of potential opportunities on the horizon, just stemming off of Malachi Black alone. But
It's just weird because it was an opening match on Dynamite, and with the Buddy Murphy and Will Ospreay stuff, and it was a great match, right? And it just came out of nowhere at the end of it. So it's like the way that it was set up is letting you know that Malachi Black is probably not going to be around for too much longer. If you read the context clues of the conversation that was going on, and it was Will Ospreay saying that you don't need him. Okay, you're good enough that you don't need Malachi Black, and you and Brody King both. And it's like, yeah, okay. Why is Will Ospreay? Why did they make it specific point for it to be Will Ospreay? And that's really what you gotta. It it wasn't even anything anybody was thinking about before that, like 30-second promo. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh really? What are we doing here?
curiouser and
and
curiouser.
and that's and that's normally what AEW is good at. Their issue really is sticking the landing of those stories. They always have good ideas to start, and then they kind of fall by the wayside because because Tony Khan gets another shiny thing that he's gotta introduce and all that. So it's like, okay, let's stick a landing.
I feel like that conversation is gonna, at least the topic of that, of just the storyline starting off hot and then starts cooling down. I feel like that's gonna be a definite later topic because that's something I've been feeling in AEW's case for a while now, but that's something beyond the topic of discussion of Malachi Black.
Yeah, I think we're my prediction. Again, I sort of touched upon this earlier on in the year, right before right before this year really kicked off, I have a suspicion that there's going to be an adjustment over time in AEW this year in that regard. So hopefully we'll see later on this year if I'm correct. But in the meantime, speaking of big changes, we got a lot of changes that are happening right now in the world of professional wrestling. The latest of which is the long-awaited premiere of Monday Night Raw on Netflix has come and gone. It has arrived, and woof, they jam-packed this episode of Raw with absolutely everything they possibly could, including starting the entire show off with The Rock.
I'll say this. I'll just say this, encompassing the entire show. Just an entire show review straight off the bat, and then I can get into the regular stuff. Okay. You said that it jam-packed a lot of stuff in there. Yes. Yes, it did. Everything other than the wrestling, I think, was very unnecessary. that was just it felt like one of those old school pay-per-views where they thought the wrestling wasn't enough and they were just throwing shit in there. I didn't need Hulk Hogan. I didn't need The Undertaker coming out on his bike, even though that was fun. It's like everything about The Rock, everything about The Rock's prior stories was thrown out. It's like, I understand what this was. For people, for casuals who were out of the wrestling sphere and they were like, "Oh, WWE's going to be on Netflix. Let's check this out. Let's see what's changed. Let's see what hasn't." They have The Rock come out, pretend to be a nice guy, do all the hugs and all that. But it's like, okay, Cody accepted a hug from a guy who beat the piss out of him and left him bloody next to his bus. Just like, what, 9 months ago? And that was the last time we saw The Rock on television. So it's like the wrestling was top notch. Not gonna deny any of that. But it's like, this isn't the Raw I've been watching for the last year. This is different. The wrestling was good. I could have done without the story, without everything else they put around it. I understand why it was there, but it kind of ruined the flow of the show for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that in the sense where it feels like this entire show was just a soft reboot or reset of everything going on in WWE, and for a number of reasons, including The Rock being all buddy buddy with everybody. Like, what I'm hoping that there's more to that. It's not just The Rock going out there and doing whatever the hell he feels like it because he's The Rock, but in more ways than one, this was just a very jarring show, sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad. And it certainly kicked off in a major way by starting off. The first match that we saw was Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa Tribal Combat, which Roman Reigns won. Now he's got the Ula Fala back, given him by The Rock, and now he's the tribal chief again. What's going on here?
Well, the thing is with this episode, listening to what you guys felt about it, and in a way, it is just, it's kind of a mixture of what you guys said. I wouldn't go as full saying it's just a full on reboot, but it was definitely one of those events where at least two out of the four matches, because I'm trying to think, let's see, there was
There was
the
four matches.
the tribal combat, the women's world championship, the
Drew versus Jay.
Drew versus Jay, and
Punk versus Rollins.
Punk versus Raw. Okay, I don't know why I'm blanking out on the matches, but a good portion of those matches are definitely one of those like pay-per-view premium live event storyline ending matches. Solo losing the Ulafala, Roman regaining it. Uh, Rhea Ripley beating Liv Morgan, finally ending this World Heavyweight Championship feud that was just long overstayed its welcome. Now we can move on to bigger and better things with Rhea Ripley's title reign. Hopefully, she won't hurt herself again. Uh, Drew and Jay are definitely the ones that are just like, okay, here's a big match just to get pretty much the biggest Raw star on the show and one of Raw's biggest heels with Drew McIntyre. It's definitely a presentation of what's going on with the current storyline. And that was definitely the one that felt this is just part of the story, whereas the other matches felt like uh finishing to these arcs. The Ulafala, the women's world title, Seth and Punk. At least with that one for now. And as for like the show is definitely more towards aiming towards the casuals that they're trying to bring in, but also the Netflix producers who were there on that show just be like, okay, here is our initial presentation. Here's this is all thanks to you. We're done now. We're gonna just keep kissing your ass for a bit. We'll bring some nostalgia acts that the casual be like, I know that guy. I know the Undertaker, and I know The Rock. Yay! This is good. This is good stuff. And then Hulk Hogan. Oh wait, boo. We, but that's what happens when you want to try promoting your beer. But
Yeah,
now
that's
After all the shit you've done.
after all the shit you've done, I I appreciate now that they're actually learning that putting Hulk Hogan on TV is not a good thing anymore by having him do just backstage bits and commercials to promote your beer. Because seriously, you put that man outside the crowd, you're gonna get are just booze, 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 and even with the potential storyline idea of like, oh, let's just turn him heel. No, that it's not. We want to boo for the show sake's heat. This is literally go away heat. We don't want you here. You are a relic to a time that no one really wants to remember. You are shown to have very very shallow points of views where even people who you're working with want to try and help you fix your image and with Mark Henry. But you chose not to do that. You half-assed your apology. You're half-assed you're showing that you actually are learning from your mistakes. So what the hell were you expecting to get? Be like, we're gonna look past you because kayfabe is still alive. We're not in those times anymore.
I'm gonna bury my head in the sand, brother, because that doesn't work for me, brother. Buy my beer, brother.
I'll still have you sign my Mr. Nanny DVD because that's just now showing just all your worth to me.
Even then, he'll still probably charge you like $250 to do that, brother.
Yeah, probably.
If he gets paid for it, he'll do damn near anything.
But overall, with the whole show, yeah, this show is just the staple end for one. This is just like the presentation, and then as Triple H said in the interview, the actual episodic stories that we've been working on are back in business. So, in a way, how they did this by having all your big moments with little to actual, what's the word I'm looking for, with substance of what you've been presenting with your product on why you're getting this deal in the first place. That's on pause until next week. This is let's just show off what we have. And let's have all this, because it's such a special occasion, let's have all the celebrities show up. I mean, God, yeah, Macaulay Culkin really did get the biggest pop of the night.
which is a
Love
delight
that.
personally. I'm honestly, now that he's gotten sober and cleaned his life up, I
I
dig
couldn't be
Macaulay
any more
Culkin
happy
again.
for him.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
if I
sure.
can get a word in, gentlemen, I've been sitting here for 15 minutes listening to you guys. Probably the best Raw I've ever seen. What a Raw it was, gentlemen. From the stars, from John Cena returning to kicking off his farewell tour, to having The Rock return and being buddy buddy with Cody Rhodes. What's going on there? What could possibly be going on there? I do not know, but it's intriguing. It's the road to WrestleMania, and I can't wait for it. Then you talk about the matches. Of course, Roman Reigns had to win. I mean, for storyline purposes, you can't drop him down. You have Jey Uso. I said to Scholar Talk earlier in the day that I think that Jey Uso should have a world heavyweight title by the end of the year. He is the most over superstar that they have right now. And if you're not eating, you're not winning.
For a second there, I thought you were gonna be like, okay, if you're not eating, you're not eating.
Appreciate the background change there, Scully Pete.
Listen, I'm just here to show my love for my tag team partner. And
Because that's what tag team partners do.
but I mean, let's get serious now. I mean, a lot of jokes, but to me, I thought it was a very good Netflix Raw. The faces won. You had CM Punk and Seth Rollins that was being built up. I mean, you obviously had the Hulk Hogan, which clearly didn't go over well. When you have memes going, subtitles, crowd booing with Hulk Hogan on the screen. Not the best look, WWE. But again, it's out of the whole out of the whole Monday Night Raw, out of the whole, this is our first Netflix show, and this is going to be an episodic every Monday. We're going to be here. I thought it did a fantastic job of giving 4 great matches, utilizing great talent, great segments of returning characters, Cena's farewell tour, and you had the homage from Undertaker to Rhea Ripley. You can't tell me that was not just a cool moment for wrestling fans, for young and new. I mean, this embodied what it was to be childhood wonder, for me at least, for this Monday Night Raw.
I'm
Thank
I'm
you,
not
gentlemen.
I'm not going to disagree with any of that, but that needs to be it for the Nostalgiacs. It's billed as the season premiere on Netflix. That's what it's billed as. So it's a season premiere. You bring out your stars, you bring out the glitz, the glam, you have some wrestling, you do all that. But now that the season premiere is over, you got to treat it like any other TV show. You got to go back to the stories, the glitz and the glam, get them out. We go back to what made Raw for the last year.
100% Scholar
For
Brian. 100%.
the last year, the best show on TV. I'm gonna say it, out of AEW. If we did a show of the year, like episodic TV show of the year, it was Raw, hands down. Not even anything came close. So you had the 1 week where you have all the happy fun times. Undertaker came back, John Cena came back,
Mhm.
The Rock came back. Okay, now we go back to the stories.
But that's what I
Yeah.
mean, gentlemen. It was for what it was, which was the debut episode on Netflix. It was everything that a wrestling fan would want, with the good guys winning, the great guys cutting great pro. It was the best of the best. Now, like you said, Scholar Brian, and let me tell you, if Jeff ever betrays me, you'll be next in line as my tag team partner. But I mean, wiser words were said like it's be back to being episodic. But let me tell you, Netflix again, like I said, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, it's like
Beat Squid Games again.
as I said, this was the quintessential episode for casuals.
Hmm.
This is not what I've been watching for the last year. Let's go back now to what I've been watching for the last year.
And to be fair, there seems to be like they're gearing up to do just that. They know what they're doing in the sense that they knew they're just doing they're trying to make the biggest splash possible for their debut on Netflix, but it seems like they're already gearing up for what's coming down the pike next. Also on
And
this show, we got an appearance from John Cena officially announcing that he was going to be in the Royal Rumble, and we got a hype package for my boy Penta, who is apparently going to be squaring off with Chad Gable next week, which, given some of the reactions I've been hearing from some of the live crowd in attendance, future's looking pretty promising for my boy Penta.
yeah, because it's like, listen, they played it off like Chad Gable's like, find me a luchador. This was bad timing because it was after the Penta, uh, after the Penta announcement. It's like you do that beforehand. They messed up the timing of those segments because it's like we all know who's going to be the luchador that they find. Come on, but so yeah, and guess what? It whatever they did, it worked because the viewership numbers came out. 4.9 million people watched. That's like the most viewership that a Raw has had in God knows how long.
Great
Years.
for Netflix. Great for Netflix too. I
Gr-
mean, what
Great for Netflix, great for the WWE, great background change. And we're going, yeah,
Inspired, even positively inspired.
yeah, and at least we'll see how many eyes they keep going forward. But based on a first shot, that's great numbers.
For sure. And plus we can't go any further without acknowledging what the current status of a lot of these world championships seems to be. Because we got a lot of title changes over this past week. We got Rhea Ripley becoming champion after defeating Liv Morgan again. We've got Tiffany Stratton finally cashing in last week towards the tail end of SmackDown last week and becoming the new women's champion. This is what I think that's what really started to set me in that mindset of a soft reboot of sorts with WWE, where it seems like now a lot of the feuds that we thought might be seeing in the very near future leading up to Royal Rumble, I feel like a lot of them, including the CM Punk Seth Rollins angle, whatever you want to call that, I feel like a lot of these feuds and storylines have all been wrapped up within the course of less than a week. So that when we're going into Royal Rumble, we are going in virtually with a blank slate.
Yeah, and especially with the fact that CM Punk and Roman Reigns have now entered their name in the hat for Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns tonight did that, so it's like we're basically going into the Royal Rumble with a free for all. It's like there's no set stories. You basically wrapped most of them up on Monday. Rhea Ripley winning needed to happen. Liv Morgan's run had run its course, I think, and we can. I'm still hoping for Ripley versus. We got to have Ripley versus Belair at some point on a Mania. I don't think it's going to happen this year because I think they're building up Belair versus Jade. But yeah, a lot of stories are wrapped up. Not a lot of stories being told right now going into the Rumble that are based on the Rumble. Even Biggie, I'm still saying Biggie in the Rumble. Still rolling with it.
I'll tell you what, though. Granted, it's still a little bit on the early side, but we're still throwing a lot of really big names at this Royal Rumble. Starting with Cena, then going to Punk and Reigns and who knows however many other people. This is looking like a pretty stacked Rumble as it is already.
It's looking like a stacked Rumble, but let's face it, the winner's going to be one of those three. We could just throw it out there right now. It's going to be
just hoping
Cena
for
Punk.
little Jimmy.
Little Jimmy is always with us in our hearts. You know that.
Yeah, the winner is obviously one of those three. It's just a question of which one to pick, because apparently all three of them are going to be involved in the main event scene of
Like WrestleMania
WrestleMania.
2000.
So it's one of the it's one of those chaotic Royal Rumbles where it's like we basically know the pick of the litter of who to win. It's just the question of how they get there.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting one. But meanwhile, they're not the only company in town that's going to be gearing up for the happenings of the next year. Because as I alluded to earlier, AEW Dynamite also gave us a sneak peek into what AEW's got cooking over the next year, including the long-awaited return of Kenny Omega at long last.
Oh, this was the big highlight of AEW for the week for me. With Kenny, it just the second he came out, knowing that we haven't had him for so long, he was that was one of those things that is just going, you know what? I missed you. I really missed you. I am so happy you're back. Please don't ever leave us again. And with just how it his promo went, leading to Don Callis coming out and him having a ending with a stare down of Will Ospreay. In my personal opinion, I think this story is needing the world title more than what Jon Moxley is doing. Because when Jon Moxley's story started, it started on fire. So now I'm coming back to what we hinted at before. And now that, yes, it's not done yet, but they're now at a point where nothing really major is happening. Like in the progression of the storyline. Now he's just facing people. I mean, it's good to see Adam Cope back from injury.
All right, I'm sorry. I got to interrupt you right there. The whole Cope thing, how does it hit you? Because it's like, I mean, it's kind of it was ridiculously jarring at first, where I'm like, this is a horrible idea.
I'm like, do you really?
I'm just starting to come around to it. Like, what is this?
No, it's one of those things. It's like, do you really need a 4-letter name? Is that where we're at right now? You can't be Edge, so you got to be Cope. You were doing fine with Adam Copeland. What's the problem? But
I'm not a fan of it either.
But look, it's Kenny. You want to restore the feeling. That's been the whole slogan of AEW for the last year. I don't know if you hotshot the title to Kenny Omega right away, but if you start integrating him and Will Ospreay into that mix of because I know they said they're setting up Okada versus Omega for All In, and that's all well and good, and that's fine. But if you want the Death Rider story to move along and have people give a shit again, you got to start moving people like Ospreay and Omega and Okada into that mix, because those are the people, when AEW first started, those are the people you wanted to see in the mix. They weren't in the company yet, but Osprey and Okada were not in the company yet, but they were like, it's AEW. They'll be here at some point. And when they are here, you're gonna need to have them in your main stories. You gotta put bigger names and names that people care about in these stories that you're trying to make big deals in your company, because it killed the Elite. It killed the Elite storyline right off the bat when they tried to take over, and the Death Rider takeover was hot for about a month and a half, and then people started figuring out that I don't care about any of these people that they're beating up. I care about Orange Cassidy. I care about Darby Allin. Everybody else can go. So they tried to throw Hangman and Jay White in there, but it's like, when you know they don't have a shot of winning, why do we care? You throw
And
Okada, you throw
like,
Osprey, you throw Omega in there. There's that chance always that something's going to be pulled out of a hat, and the people give a shit about them.
like the one
So
thing that's really frustrating about this for me is it doesn't feel like the World Heavyweight Championship is important anymore. Like the whole point of this whole Death Rider story is to basically wake people up and just be like, okay, AEW is not in a good place. Uh, I now have the soul. I now have the soul of AEW. Who wants to take it from me? And it started off great, where like a good half of the locker room is trying to stand up to them, but now not really many people are standing up to them anymore. And I mean that the having Hangman Page, Jay White, and Orange Cassidy, that's a great idea for a world title match, especially considering with Hangman Page and Jay White, because I could see them being big stars for the company. Not like on the level of Omega, Okada, and Will Ospreay, but they are definitely like the top upper talent that we're looking at. And as you said, Brian, we don't really see these people beating John Moxley. Hell, I like Adam Copeland, but this doesn't feel like a main event match to me. This feels like an undercard. And it's supposed to be for your world championship, which doesn't have that feeling, because the world championship is nothing more than a briefcase right now.
Yeah, I
So
definitely see what they're going for, but the only thing I would add to this is the amount of people who I could see as being viable contenders for that championship. Specifically, I'm talking about Swerve. I'm talking about, Darby, we acknowledged. Uh, I think we're all thinking that Osprey is definitely in that mix. Call me crazy. I don't think he's not going to win it, but I can see this being in the mix too. If Jeff Jarrett is actually going to challenge for the title, and by extension MJF, I can see some shenanigans happening here. Basically, it's basically an answer in a way to your concern that you mentioned earlier, where eventually all these other storylines, they're all going to start folding back in on the whole Death Riders title is in limbo storyline that they've got cooking, where there's some feuds and all that stuff, but eventually those, as they gain prominence, will eventually fold back into the title picture, if that makes sense.
That's all well and good, but while you're having all these outside feuds, the actual Death Riders themselves, the storylines that they're in, while these other feuds are going on, I have to give a crap about that. And there are certain days where I'm like, like this week in particular. Okay, the weakest, the second week, I loved about 3/4 of this show. 3/4 of this show made me feel like AEW was going in the right direction. It felt like a show from yesteryear when everybody was talking good about AEW. What was the stuff that I didn't care about? I didn't really care about Jeff Jarrett and MJF, and I didn't really care about the Death Riders Copeland stuff. It's like, oh, they're gonna suffocate him again. Oh, here comes. I do appreciate that Hobbs is getting a title shot. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy the fact that he's getting a title shot, but I know what's gonna happen, and that's a problem. That's the problem. I don't care about the Hobbs versus Moxley match because I know how it's gonna end. It's obvious how it's gonna end, and the segments leading up to it haven't really given me reason to care that Hobbs is getting a title shot against Moxley. I know it's going to be a great match leading up to the bullshit, but we all know that the bullshit's coming. And but it's like, and I understand that it's needed, but we came into this with this company thinking that these kinds of stories with this kind of bullshit wasn't going to happen with this company, and it's what we're getting now. That's what I'm getting at. You're trying to be the alternative, and you're not doing alternative shit. Now that you've got Omega, Ospreay, and Okada back and going strong, and we need to start tightening this up. You have all these stories that are you say, Scholar Jeff, that the stories are going to start folding back in. Well, they need to start because the Death Rider storyline is kind of played out to me at this point. With every week they're coming out with plastic bags trying to suffocate people, and I'm like, okay, we've done this for 5 months now, every week.
It's not even that they're played out. It just feels like they put themselves into a pause on where they want to go with this storyline. Like, what is the end game point of this Death Rider story? And right now, they're just there. What's the what are we doing here? What are we waiting for? 'Cause, yeah, like I said, I like Adam Copeland. I don't want to see him in the world title picture because I don't think he's gonna win. Hell, I don't even think Christian is gonna win, and he has the contract.
Which I honestly keep forgetting about. Like, I keep forgetting he's got like access to a title shot until he starts walking around with that thing again. I'm like, when are you actually going to use this song? When is that even going to come into play at this point?
Honestly, at this point, just make it a triple threat match. Because no one really expects Christian to actually win the world title and, if anything, hold on to it for a while. Like he would basically be the God, this is going back to my Christian WWE days. He's the epitome of the transitional champion.
Let me tell you what AEW needs to do.
No, we don't need to do that.
No, if anything, there's a whole list of people who actually really could use the title and bring more attention to the title scene.
And
let Scholar Pete tell you what he would do since he's chomping at the bit over there.
You want to bring these stories together? You want them to mean something? You want to bring the best to the best? Well, boys, I'm going to give you something you're not going to expect. Bring in Jeff Jarrett. It's his last year, and he needs a title shot.
I will slap you in the face.
And he suggests his match, the King of the Mountain. And that brings in Omega, Ospreay, and they all come into this ladder match. And it's a way to bring all the stories in. You still have your main event guys in the main event picture, seeing how everybody clashes, and it makes Death Riders relevant, and it makes Jarrett's storyline mean something.
Or alternative idea, you could, not do that.
No.
What is that tag team partner?
Never you mind. Uh, Honestly,
That's what I thought. That's what I
semi
thought.
semi serious. There, I noticed that in this whole connection about the future storylines of AEW, there is one name that really hasn't been brought up that's sort of waiting in the wings to be utilized in the near future. Someone who can really enhance the storytelling aspect of all of these feuds, someone who can just create more of a storyline and tell it better than it's currently being told. I am talking about the eventual return of Eddie Kingston. I'm not saying he's going to win the title. He should not win the title. Tarek, you can sit back down. But I'm just suggesting that where you need a more complete storyline and you need more people to be talked into the building, so to speak, you need someone who can generate that interest. And when Eddie Kingston is ready to go, you can use Eddie Kingston in that way.
I
Can he win
have
the
heard a
title?
lot of
No, absolutely not. I know I sort of got to Tarek right now when I said that. Was I trolling a little bit? Yes, but I'm not suggesting he should win the title. Not at all. There are far too many other deserving people who could use it. But all I'm suggesting is that if a weakness is storytelling and feud cohesiveness and that sort of thing, I think a guy like Eddie Kingston who can talk a mile a minute can be a big boon in this situation and can flesh out whatever storyline you want to go with in the end.
Yeah, I will say that I don't want him to be in the main title picture, but if you want to put him up against like a Claudio or a Pac and have him part of that group that goes against those guys, I'd be like with like him maybe having like a match against Moxley. Not for the title, but for like storyline purpose, just because he's a guy who knows Moxley and is trying to get into his head and trying to figure out why he's doing what he's doing. I can see that.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, don't make him like the only sole focus. Like, when the troops start rallying again, he would basically be teaming up with like Darby, who eventually gets positioned as the successor and wins the title. But you would pair up with just like not his manager, but more of like someone who can talk with him, someone who can be like his enforcer, his muscle, backing up Darby so that when the big title match between Darby and John Moxley ends up happening, that can be the backup so he can like, oh yeah, Claudio's coming back out, here comes Eddie Kingston, even the odds, and that sort of thing. Backup and more of a promo fuel for the guy who will eventually take the title off of John Moxley.
I mean, at the end of the day, the AEW has to bring better stories, interwoven stories with their other wrestlers because they have to compete with WWE and going into Netflix, and just how much more freeing it's going to be on streaming services rather than being on cable. WWE has a opportunity, I love this Smack deal. They got to utilize it. It's like Scholar Tarek said, like he's able to watch, these great wrestling shows that we talk about every week.
And it's also going back to what we were talking about before. Osprey saying those words to Buddy Matthews and Brody King. Back up for Osprey when he goes up against the Death Riders. Omega, and the Young Bucks when they come back. That's they hash out their shit for the good of the company. You know what I mean? It's one of those you bring all these people together, and the the main person as backup at all times because you know that Moxley's going to have his guys out there. So this is how you bring all those stories together. And I'll say this about Dynamite. Okay, except for like it was an hour and 50 minutes of awesome show, bringing back the good old days of what we used to watch and enjoy. And it was like 10 minutes of, yeah, I don't need this on my screen right now. But it it was a better week of Dynamite TV than we've had in a bit.
Yeah, and hopefully my prediction of still having some correction, some growth, some course correction in AEW is still on the table. It's still looking up, and I'm still very optimistic for the future. And if nothing else, I just want to see Eddie Kingston back on my TV. I don't care what he does. He could just have him sell t-shirts or something. I just want Eddie Kingston back. Crickets.
You're trying to have Tarek scream at you. I see you.
Only mildly
I
so.
see you over there.
I am.
He wants
I
a
am
heated
speaking
show.
the truth. I am speaking the truth. I'm speaking my opinion, but at the same time, yeah, I am. I'm fishing for I may be going for a slight reaction there.
Talk your talk, tag team partner.
But in all seriousness,
You're not
before
getting anything out of me with that.
the troll, you have ascended beyond mere trolling. I get it.
Yes.
I have.
We sit at the top of the mountain waiting for the trolls to work
No.
their way up, and we just keep pushing them down.
Well, before we say goodbye for today, I do have one other small Scholars Quick Talk for the whole lot of you. The Scholars Quick Talk is this. After everything we've seen and heard in wrestling this week, after everything we've taken in and bearing what kind of reactions we've seen, what kind of segments we've observed, the question still remains, will you be willing to try real American beer? Go.
No.
No.
I'm gonna go with a hell no.
Yeah, considering it's not even available in our state yet, it's going to be very interesting to see how that progresses. Because
Look, it's one of those things. If you don't like the sponsor, if you don't, you're already facing an uphill battle. Okay, if he's done too much.
I mean, have you seen the video with him and Rey Mysterio just naming somebody at random, like backstage, enjoying the beer, and you just see Rey being like, "Yeah, this is great." It's like, like, is Rey a trusted guy? Like, it's questionable.
hey, I'm sure he's a great friend to all who care about him in every single way. But yeah, I don't see this sponsorship acting. If anything, yeah, they're a sponsor officially at the current moment, but let's be real. They're probably going to be hyping up Wheatley Vodka or Terramana or something like that before they end up getting the rest of that. But
May I ask one question
again,
to you, gentlemen?
mild troll. Go ahead, Scholar Pete, my tag team partner.
Especially this week with how WWE is, I couldn't help but notice Fortnite, the very popular game, was plastered in the middle of the ring, along with the other sponsors and everything. How do you feel about the sponsored filled ring for Monday Night Raw? Do you hate it? Do you like it? What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
I don't enjoy it. It's like it's too much. If if it's one night, the opening night of Raw, that's fine. Whatever. But if it's permanent, I'm like, get that shit off the mat, please. No, I'm not.
I'm
In all
honestly a little bit.
honesty-
I'm sorry. You go ahead first.
In all
Phil.
honesty, I'd rather have it on the barricade than on the mat in the ring.
Yeah, do
I
what you were doing during the pandemic. All the stuff that you had on the barricades and the walls and all that. Do that. I don't need it on the ring.
Or you can do what they did at like WrestleMania, and they just have ads for dude wipes or whatever, and on the barrier.
Good old dude wipes. My tag team partner. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I'm a little mixed. I'm more mixed than I thought I'd be. The At first, the all the ads and stuff seems like it makes the ring look very busy by my standards. But then again, on the one hand, it sort of gives it a feel of like AAA, where they've got ads on the ring, like you do. So it sort of is reminiscent of that sort of thing. Or plus, it also makes me wonder, since they've got Fortnite front of all things front and center. My one thought is, okay, are they going to add more WWE skins to the game? Because I'm pretty sure they already have at least 3 that I know of. I think they've got John Cena, Bianca Belair, and
Becky
what's the-
Two Belts.
and Becky Lynch. I'm wondering, okay, are they going to add more people to Fortnite? And if so, who?
Well, I mean, Call of Duty last year added Rhea Ripley and Cody Rhodes and Rey Mysterio as 3 playable skins. Very similar to my background here is Call of Duty skin. To be
I
according
can
to
see Cody and Rhea absolutely being added, and frankly, I'm a little surprised they haven't been. Rey Mysterio, hit or miss. Even though I'm sure he's a great friend.
I mean, if I may talk, tag team partner, my thoughts on the map is I hate it. I hate it, man. Give me a clean fucking cloth so I could just, well, even if like I don't even like logos on, just give me a nice clean cloth so I can watch the action and focus on that. I don't need little things in here and there and there and here. But in all seriousness, them getting Fortnite and a lot of the sponsors they have gotten is remarkable because nobody can argue the impact that at least on like entertainment with Fortnite and the collaborations they've done and just the millions of dollars, if not billions at this point that this company has made, and just WWE playing with these advertisers like UFC has done over the last decade, where they're in the UFC ring, it's plastered, but in UFC, it's a much bigger playing field. It's a bigger arena, a bigger mat, so it doesn't affect. But for WWE, I just feel like get that shit out of my view.
Indeed. Hopefully, that one notion is right, and they're just going all out for just that one debut episode of Monday Night Raw. Then again, maybe all the money that those sponsors bring in is just going to be too much, and this becomes totally permanent. But no matter what ends up happening, we're still talking about the bright future when it comes to the streaming era of professional wrestling. But now is the point of our show where we turn it back over to you, our fellow fans. What did you think of the birth of the streaming era? What do you think of the new look and feel of Monday Night Raw? Is it going to stay the way it is? Is it going to shift or change in any way? And if you're an AEW fan, where do you think the whole title situation is going to go? What's the main event going to be looking like? No matter what you think, let us know all across the internet. Let us know in YouTube comments, Facebook posts, Instagram comments, or if you want to join in the conversation yourself, join us on Twitter and join in the conversation directly. Fool, where can I reach you?
You can reach me at the Avatar.
Scholar Brian, where can I reach you?
You can reach me not worrying about being the Rey Mysterio to my tag team partners Batista at Atomic Beanpole.
My delightful tag team partner, my good friend, where can they reach you?
My stupendous tag team partner. Thank you for that. I mean, they could reach me at Improv Pete. Of course, lovingly sending my tag team partner just the greatest comments.
They could be
And
Batista and Rey Mysterio all they want. You and me, Brian, we're Kane and Undertaker. It's like we're an awesome badass tag team, but we're not afraid to beat each other up every now and then.
It needs to happen sometimes.
Of
We know
course,
which one
this.
is the
that's how
Undertaker? Which one
Yeah,
relationships
is
which one
Kane?
is the Undertaker? Which one's Kane?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, it absolutely
Oh,
does
oh,
matter.
yeah.
I can see the conflict in your eyes, Tarek. I know where your heart wants to go, but I know where your mind wants to go too.
But you know what? It doesn't matter because we know what's in front of us, Mr. Dave Batista and Mr. Rey Mysterio. I'm pointing at Scholar Pete and Scholar Jeff. We know how this ends. We've seen this story before.
And
Or
no
they
matter
could just be
what,
trolling us and just be like, "Oh, you think that's gonna happen, but no."
No, I know Scholar Pete. I know how his brain works. It's coming.
and if you want to follow all of this trolling and all of these play-by-play of this rivalry, feud, or lovely, lovely partnership and friendship, you can follow me at I'm Robbie Rage. And for all of these relevant social media links and much, much more, you can check us out in the description box below at our link tree. That's linktree/Scholars of Wrestling. And with that, it's time to go back and watch some more wrestling. And we're going to be back here next week with even more for you in the world of professional wrestling, because you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
See you all next week, and let the streaming era continue.